campus. I guess first of all, what was your decision to go to UCLA?
Yeah, so I really wanted to go to a public school, and I applied to pretty much all the UCs in the UC system. And it was really just between Berkeley and UCLA because those kind of the top two UCs. And growing up in the Bay Area, I wanted something a little bit different, and LA was just something that always interested me, and I wanted to go far away for college, but at the same time stay in state. And when I visited UCLA's campus for the first time, I just fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm. So what was it that brought you to the Mixed Student Union?
Mm-hmm. So as an incoming freshman, I went to an event called Bruin Day. It's something that they do every year at UCLA to welcome accepted students to the campus. And they had a big resource fair where a bunch of different student groups were out and had tables. And I just happened to walk past one that said Mixed Student Union. And I was like, oh, what's that? And as soon as I started talking to the folks at the table, they were telling me about their different backgrounds. And one person was like, oh, I'm Mexican and Jewish. And someone else was, like Canadian and Indian and like just all these different things. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. And I'll never forget that moment because it was literally the first time in my entire life where I even thought that I could identify that way. And just meeting other people who had multiple backgrounds, I just felt this immediate connection like, oh wow, like this is a space for me. And I just got super excited about it. I remember I took their little flyer home with me back to the Bay Area, and that moment between Bruin Day and starting college, I was like so excited to join this group and learn more about it.
That's awesome. So that student union started in 2010, right? Mm-hmm. Did they tell you anything about how they got started? Because it was pretty young at the time, right?
Yeah, so a little bit of history about that group. Before Mixed Student Union started, there was actually a Hapa Club at UCLA that started, I think, sometime in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And I don't know too much about that group, but I think around 2010, some folks at UCLA wanted to start, a group for folks who identify as mixed race. And, the Hapa Club had existed, but I think people wanted to expand it to be more inclusive to anyone of mixed race background. And so I think two people were interested in starting a mixed student union, and it just kind of naturally merged with the Hapa Club, and they became one.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, with being a very inclusive group. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the nature of being a multiracial group, right? Did you encounter any difficulties with having that amount of acceptance in the club? Mm-hmm. Were there any, conflicts of interest?
Yeah. Well, at UCLA, there is a very small percentage of African American students. I think when I was a student there, it was probably somewhere around 3 or 5%, super small. And in 2010, they had just started, and I became an incoming freshman in 2011. And the group got off to a good start, but then there were kind of ups and downs. And so when I joined the group, I immediately was just so enthusiastic about it. I became a board member, and my sophomore year became one of the co-directors of the group. And at that point, attendance was a little bit low, and we wanted to just really build our name. So something that I did was really just try to strengthen our relationships with other groups at UCLA to just get our name out there and tell folks about it. And some groups were more open to it than others. I joined the Asian Pacific Islander Coalition, and other groups like MECHA and the African Student Union. I would just try to show up and be there, and sometimes people would look at me like, who is this girl, like, coming to our meetings? And and I tried to do my best to explain what Mixed Student Union was about, and just tell folks that we're here for anyone who is interested in joining. Um, and I think at first, people can get really comfortable with their own groups. But for me, it was just about showing up and showing up consistently, and yeah, just trying to get the word out as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like you really put yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
even in spaces where you didn't feel super comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's really important,
Mm-hmm.
being able to bridge those divides and make those connections.
Yeah.
So what came of your efforts?
Yeah, so like I said, when I first started, it was kind of going through a rough patch, and I really felt that myself and the board members at the time were really able to build it up to something much bigger. We finally got to a place where we had a really good attendance. We hosted meetings like every week, and we would get probably around like 30 people to show up, and just having really good conversations. We always reminded ourselves that it was definitely about the quality of the experience, not so much, having one of the biggest groups on campus. We also had to remind ourselves that, some of the other student groups at UCLA have been around for, 30, 40 years, and our group was brand new. So I think, for it being such a new group, we definitely got it to a place that I was really proud of. We also started the annual Mixed Heritage Conference at UCLA, and that was another, really big achievement for us that got our name out to even schools outside of UCLA and groups like Mask and Mixed Remix Festival and all these other organizations that exist in the greater Los Angeles area. So yeah, I mean, I think looking back, I was really proud of how we were able to grow the group, and even today, they're still going strong. So I'm really proud about that.
Yeah, I understand that. So actually, can you say a little bit more about how you started the conference? Because I feel like that's a really big move, and it's really exciting to be able to bring those people to campus.
Yeah, so I can't take full credit for it. We really were inspired by the Mixed Heritage Conference that happens at UC Berkeley. As MSU, that was one of our big annual events every year. We would drive up to Berkeley and attend their conference. And I think after attending a couple times, I noticed that a lot of the people who attended were from UC Berkeley, from UC Davis, and a lot of the other Northern California schools. And we noticed that there wasn't a lot of attendance from folks who were going to UC San Diego or UC Santa Barbara and UCLA, because it's farther down. So we thought it would be a great idea for us to start something similar in Southern California, because there's such a big population down there, and we felt that it was really needed. And so, we took the model that UC Berkeley had created, and we just tried it out and tried to do something really similar at UCLA. So our first year, we started out really small, just, to see how it goes. And we reached out to some speakers, hosted some workshops, invited folks that we knew at UC Irvine, UC San Diego, UC Santa Barbara, and it was good. I mean, I think for the first year, we were really just trying to get our feet wet and get the experience of doing it. And I think it wasn't until the second year that it really blew up, and we had over 100 people attend. We had Heidi Duro was our keynote speaker. We had some great panelists, some great workshops, and everything went really smoothly. It was probably one of the highlights of my college experience. And since then, it's just continued to get bigger and bigger. And yeah, it's something that was really excited that I'm looking back. I'm really amazed that I was able to do that.
That's great. But one more technical question, just about the organization.
Yeah.
You said that you were a board member. So can you say how you structured the leadership for MSU, and any challenges there or anything that you'd want to improve, and then also what was maybe good about it that you would recommend to other clubs?
Yeah, that's always a tricky part, and I know that schools that have tried to do mixed student unions have struggled with this, and really just any student group. it's tough to figure out a system that works.
Mm-hmm.
For us, I think all of us board members, we were really close friends, and so I think our first year we were all just board members, and I think 2 of us were co-directors, and we really just shared the responsibilities. Whatever needed to be done, we would just delegate it at the time, and that worked in the beginning. But I think today they have a little bit more of a structured format where there's a treasurer and a secretary and interns and all of that. But I think for us, something that I would recommend for other students who are starting a group is, it worked for us. We just kind of started without titles and we saw what was needed as we went. So, as we had experience putting on events, we realized, we need fundraising for this. We need to apply for certain grants so find out what is needed, as you go along, and then you'll come up with those board rules as needed.
Mm-hmm. And were there any faculty or administrative support roles, or did you have that?
Some, at UCLA, I think they changed the name. I can't remember what the name of it is now, but there is a group that offers support and advising and counseling for student groups specifically. We also had a lot of support from our student government. I personally found a lot of my support from other student leaders who were, directing other groups, like the Asian Pacific Coalition, and just friends that I had that I knew were involved in other groups, tried to get to know them. So I found support in a lot of different ways, but mostly I would say it was through building relationships with other student groups on campus.
Great.
And also one more thing, going to different conferences and things.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know the leaders of other MSUs from different campuses, and that was also another great source of support. Getting to know like the president of the mixed student group at UC Irvine or UC Berkeley, and we would all kind of check in with each other to see how things were going, and I got a lot of guidance from them too.
Yeah, so you had a really strong network.
Yeah.
You said that this college time was like the first time where you really started to explore what it meant to have a multiracial identity. And that's true for a lot of students, a lot of young people. So I'm wondering what effect Mixed Student Union had on the way that you identified. Did you find that it changed from your freshman year to your senior year?
Definitely. I think the biggest thing for me was knowing that I wasn't alone was a huge one. And just knowing that there were people out there, even outside of campus, doing work to, whether it was researching it on an academic level or, organizing, outside of college, was really big for me. It was just a whole new way of understanding myself, and just seeing the world in a different way and having friends who I felt were like my family growing up, and then on top of being part of the student group, I found a lot of resources through my classes as well. I was an Asian American Studies major, but any opportunity that I had to take classes on multiracial identity or write a paper on multiracial identity, I definitely took advantage of those. And so it was a combination of being involved with student groups and also taking classes that just helped me feel more secure in my identity and making sense of my experience.
And so do you feel like you had a different sense of yourself by the time you were a senior?
Definitely. Just things that I would feel insecure about growing up, maybe not feeling like I was Latino enough, or not feeling like I was Asian American enough, or feeling like I stuck out in certain groups, was something that I was always insecure about, and even today I still feel that way sometimes, but it just helped me to realize that, it's okay, and that, I don't have to have one idea of my identity, that it's always changing, and just finding support through other people who experience similar things just helped me feel like, there is a community out there for me.
I feel the train a-coming, I hear the whistle blowing loud, it's calling out my name, rumble in the ground, I swear it sounds a lot like